G'day fellas and welcome to a Japanese build order guide for Season 6. This is a simple build order that's going to take your 1v1 or team gameplay to the next level. If you're down in, say, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, even up to diamond, this is a pretty refined build order. It's going to focus on getting out archers really early on and is somewhat inspired by English openings with longbows. In addition to this replay that I'll be showing you, I've also got an Excel spreadsheet, which I'll leave a link in the description to just a gentle run through on what you can do with this. So I'll move this off the screen now and refer to it as we go through this, but let's get to it. So we start off by moving all of our villagers over onto a sheep, try and move that sheep over, and one villager gets split off over towards the gold. We then move our scout out, and of course, we queued villagers in our town center. From there, we made sure that we cleared our TC so that we have a ring of farms ready to go down on that. And we put the house down. From there, we then put our forge down, and our town center is just going to rally a villager out to food. From here, as soon as the farmhouse is finished, we're going to start researching Tawara, which is the unique wheelbarrow upgrade. On top of that, our scout is now out in the middle of the map. We're heading towards the enemy base. We want to get there as quickly as we can so that we can start stealing some of those sheep, and that's exactly what we do, stealing away some of those sheep. We are on Mega Random here today. The map looks a little bit weird, as you can see, so we'll dial it back in though. So, your opening's pretty simple. You go up to 7 villagers on food, and then eventually that one villager will finally make its way out to gold. And once you've got those 7 villagers on food, you're going to rally out 2 more villagers to gold. So you're going to start off with 7 vills on food, 3 vills on gold. It's a pretty simple opening, and it's definitely a lot less complex than the other opening that we did for the Japanese with the bannerman for the cavalry. Now, in this opening, the whole idea is that we're going to be looking to get an early mass of archers up, and because of that, I posit that the Japanese are actually a pretty good team game civilization if you need an archer civilization. So let's say maybe you're running the Byzantines to do your cavalry, and you're thinking, what am I going to play with some archers? Do I go English? Yeah, you can. Or you can go the Japanese. They've got a very strong archer that they can utilize. So now that we've got 7 villagers on food, 3 villagers on gold, we're going to rally out 3 villagers onto wood. Once again, nice and simple. There's no real mixing it up here, going out to stone or any of that kind of jazz. I tried to keep this build order, this opening, as simple as it is, just so, or as simple as it can be, just so that it is a little bit easier to remember. We do see our opponent here scouting us out. I'm sure he's a little bit confused as to exactly why we spawned here. I definitely wasn't. I was not expecting him to spawn in this position. Let's just put it that way. I thought he'd be a bit more somewhere over here-ish. But anyway, so at this point, we're waiting for our 3 vills to rally over onto wood. And once that happens, we should be cleared for takeoff for our storehouse to come down. So we're going to be placing it down with 4 villagers from sheep. And we're going to be building it so that it's offset from the town center by 2 tiles. That's really important, just so that we can get all of our farms around here. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put mine at the back, just so that I'm not adjacent to the berry bushes here. And that way I get all of my farms in. Now, I'm also going to rally a villager out to sheep, just a single villager to sheep, because we had 7 villagers on sheep, so that took us down to 3, and ideally we want to keep 4 on sheep, just because that's going to allow us to keep making villagers. And from here, what we're going to do is rally our villagers now out to wood, and we've built up enough wood from this straggler tree that we can afford to drop down a lumber camp, so we're going to start doing that as well. And now at this point, we're just going to rally out another 3 villagers out onto wood, so we're going to go up to a total of 7 villagers onto wood. At the same time, we're scouting out on the map. We're looking for all the resources we can find. As the Japanese, early on, you really don't need too many different resources. Because of your Kura storehouse, you transition to farms very early on in the game, and it means that you don't have to leave your base at all. It's a wonderful landmark, and it's great to be able to get it up nice and early so that way the farms start trickling in a little bit sooner. We're going to be focusing on getting a couple of economic upgrades as well, so we're not just focusing on our military, and that's important because we do at the same time need a way to stay in the game when it comes to our economy. We can't focus 100% on military, otherwise we'd have to be really, it's almost gambling if we do that. So the upgrades that we're going to be looking for are Takazaiku. So we're going to be looking for this upgrade, and we're also going to be looking for double broad axe. I can pronounce that one. That's a pretty simple one. So now we've gone up here on 7 villagers out onto wood. So we're going to be going up to an 8th villager on wood, but I'm just going to pause it right as the age up happens. So 4 minutes, 13 seconds, not too bad. I've actually got 4 minutes and 5 seconds listed on my spreadsheet, so I might have to fix up those numbers a little bit, but you can always compare your timing to my timing, and if it's around this time, anything within 4:15, it's going to be absolutely fine. So as soon as we age up, we're going to make sure that we rally our villagers back over to sheep. Now, the other thing to note is, if ever you see a farm here that is not being worked, just move a sheep village up over onto that farm straight away. Don't even think about it. Don't even drop the food off at the town center. Don't bother. Just throw it onto the farm straight away. And now, once we've got this age up that's come through, so we're up to 8 villagers on food. We're going to be looking for the 8th villager onto wood. And then that's pretty much food and wood sorted out for the early game. That our focus is then going to begin turning towards stone. So now that we've got our upgrades coming through, our unique wheelbarrow upgrade coming through, we're going to be looking to get our double broadaxe upgrade coming through when we've got the resources, and we're also going to be throwing down an archery range with our wood villagers. So just the one villager. We're not in a rush here to get this down. Now, I'll talk a little bit about this this build order and the ways that you can change it in the way that it's been worked. But at the moment, it seems like a pretty strong build order against even early aggression from the English, because this timing that we're looking for right now, the enemy is going to be, on a map like this, they'll probably have units at your base right about now, but it does give you that opportunity to defend. So we've now got that double broadaxe coming through, and we're going to start rallying out onto stone. So I will just pause it here, and I will just say, in the event that you're playing up against an English player and they've got a longbow, and the longbow is beginning to hit this villager, we can probably just rally out to wood instead. We don't want to commit to doing this, so we want to try and be flexible with our build order. But in the event that you're playing up against Juicy's Legacy, like I am here, then you want to try your best to commit to doing this, because what we're going to be doing is looking to get the Daimyo Manor. And by doing that, it's going to unlock one of our Bannermen. And when we get our Bannerman, which is going to be the Yumi Bannerman, that's going to increase the damage that our Yumi Ashigaru do by 1. Which might not sound like a lot, but it is a huge amount. It works out to be like 13, actually it's probably closer to 15%. It's actually, it's probably even higher than that, like 18%. It's pretty damn high. So we're now on 883. So 8 vils on food, 8 vils on wood, 3 vils on gold. They're going to stay on gold for the duration of the game. And now we start rallying villagers out onto stone. So we only want to collect 300 stone. We don't need any more than that. We're not going for a second TC. We're not going to look to get the second level of the Daimyo, or rather the Daimyo. Even though you can definitely do that later on at the early stage of the game. We want to focus on units as much as we can. So now that we've got those eco upgrades through, we can begin to focus on our military upgrades. And we don't even have to build a blacksmith because we've already got forges. So we're going to start off with steeled arrow +1 ranged attack. Now, I've spotted out my opponent and I've seen what he's doing. I said, hold on, I recognize what's going on here. You're going for a bald, fast castle. I can already tell the amount of villagers on gold, only the single landmark here. That's what it is. So we just straight away came out of our base. Normally, I'd like to mass up a few units before we go out, but I said, I want to try and deny this guy getting to castle age, if at all possible, because we're still pretty early in the game. And if he hasn't refined his build order just yet, there's a good chance that we might be able to stop him, depending on depending on where he's at. So behind this, we're once again just making units, making villagers. That's all we're doing. We train a villager, we train a unit. And that's part of the reason why we've got this specific amount of villagers on these resources. I very carefully calculated. I said, okay, well, I need 4 villagers on resources, or on food, to maintain that villager production. I need 4 to maintain the Yumi production, and then I also need about 5 to maintain the wood for the Yumis. But in addition to the wood for the Yumis, you also need things for wood, like upgrades, your additional forge for your stone. You also need houses. There's lots of other things that you need. So it's just nice to have that little bit of extra wood floating here, like we've got at the moment. So now we continue rallying units towards the middle. We don't get caught up on the scout. We just go straight in, and there we go. We find the landmark, the Shaolin Monastery. So he was looking for about a 7-minute age up, which was pretty nice, but we do get the cancel on him there, and we also managed to get a villager kill, which is very, very good for us here. And this is where we can just kind of chill, right? Like, we're pretty happy here. We've done a really good job, forced him off the landmark. He's going to have to go into Berry. So now we're thinking about where else is he going to go, and that's something that we'll be looking at. But let's tune back in behind the scenes and focus on the macro a bit. Nothing's really changed back here, except for the fact that we've taken our stone villagers and we've just pulled them off. And what we've done is we've just split them up between our food and our wood. And you can see at the moment we've got 11 villagers on food, 10 villagers on wood. And the idea is that now that we've gone into that and we've done it, we've added more villagers to our resources for Yumi. We're going to be making more of them, and because of that, we're going to need a second archery range. So that's what we're doing here, and we're looking to get that Bannerman in as soon as our Daimyo Minor comes in, and that's going to help buff us up a little bit more damage because we're only doing 4+1 at the moment. That'll be taking us to 4+2. So what we're focusing on here for Juicy's legacy is we're just making sure we stand in the meditation gardens so that we're reducing his income from this. So this is going to be reducing it by 60%, so very nice. And we're going to send these guys up just around the top. We don't really care if we lose these units. If we lose them, it's not a big deal. These are really, really cheap units. 30 food, 35 wood, very, very cheap. Now, at this point, we're going to continue rallying out to wood because our next focus, we've managed to pick up some early upgrades. We've got ranged armor, we've got ranged attack. Now the next focus becomes not on this right here, not on fitted leatherwork, Drongo. You got to switch that up, brother. It's siege engineering is what we want to be researching here. So a little bit of a misclick from me, bit of a mistake. I'm not sure if that's if I actually let that get through. If I do, bit of a mistake. But anyway, the idea is that we're working towards that upgrade. We haven't gone into things like survival techniques. We haven't gone into our specialized pick upgrade. We're only focusing our eco upgrades on the things that we need, and we're only making sure that we are picking up our relevant military upgrades. And it looks like, have we realized? I think we realized we were getting forestry, and now we've realized, oh, you know what? Siege engineering might be decent. But we do spot that horseman coming out. It looks like we will get fitted leatherwork in, so it's going to be a little bit of a delay on our siege. But the sooner you can get to your siege, the better. You can see we're 8 minutes through at the moment. This is a pretty substantial mass, and the enemy now does have cavalry out, and we do note he hasn't aged up, so it looks like he's probably used that cavalry to regain control of the food. I suspect he thought if he was knocked off food, he wouldn't be able to build any monks, so it kind of made sense for him to instead invest in that. So now back home, we've begun working on siege engineering, and now our barracks is coming down. And with the barracks, we're going to be looking to counter any of those horsemen, and we're going to be very careful with how we control our spears in the early game. We want to make sure that we don't lose any of them to enemy Zhuku. That's very important. So siege engineering comes in, and straight away we're looking just to throw down a battering ram. We want to begin putting on the pressure towards the enemy base. Meanwhile, behind this, we've still got the 3 villagers on gold, those same 3 villagers. We're still rallied out to wood. We've got 11 villagers on food. You can see that we've got these farms out here, but to be honest, you know, we're doing absolutely fine. We've got so much sheep under the TC. We're having an absolute field day here. So now that the battering ram is out, we're just going to start a slow and steady siege of the enemy base. Ideally, we never want to siege the town center until we've got 3 battering rams. That's my rule that I like to use. So you'll feel more than welcome to take things out. As long as you're not copying any damage from the TC with your main force, you're fine. Your battering ram will be able to tank up the shots. But initially, we just want to try and kill everything on the outskirt of the base before we come in and look to kill with those battering rams. And you can see that we've done a pretty decent job in macroing as well. We've got lots of wood in the bank at the moment, which will help us because we're going to be looking to drop down additional battering rams. Remember, we want to go up to those 3 battering rams here. So, again, I've spotted out the enemy's food on that north side, and so we're just going to rally in a couple of units up here. I got no idea what we're up to back home at the moment. Let's have a look. Check in. Looks like we're building a house. There you go. So I like to build my houses with my gold bills because gold is one of those resources where you really don't need a lot of it when you're doing this. Once you've got your key upgrades, you're kind of just saving it for castle age at that point. You can look to take it off, but here's the first attack. The horsemen going to try and come through. We've got a couple of spears that we can fall back on. We're not going to cancel our battering rams. And just a couple of spears is going to be all that we need here to get rid of him. You can see the damage that we've got is pretty decent here. Now, granted, he doesn't have +1 ranged armor, so he's going to have a really tough time against us. So that's just something to be aware of as well. But at this stage, we're doing as much damage as a normal archer with +1 attack. So it's slightly less than a longbow. Now, you got to remember, this unit is incredible. And I haven't really talked much about it yet. But this unit is amazing. And the reason why is because of its movement speed. 1.38 movement speed. That's as fast as a palace guard. It's faster than an archer. It's much faster than a longbow. And because of that, it's one of the best archer units in the game, in my opinion, for building your skill. This is something I haven't really talked much about on my YouTube. I talk about it all the time on my Patreon. But one of the things I love to focus on, and this build order allows you to do it and allows you to get really, really good at Age of Empires, is VUP. villages, units, housing, production. These are 4 core things that I teach on my coaching. And you've got to be checking that you're always doing this. And so, are you making villages? Are you making units? Do you have enough housing? Have you got enough production? What we're doing is we're just making sure we've only got enough units in here so that all of our buildings are active, and we're making sure that we spend all of our resources constantly. That's what we're looking to do here. So, at this point, the game's pretty much over. We've had a very good opening. We've denied his castle age. We've killed his landmark. We appear to have prevented any kind of progression coming out from him. We've done a pretty decent job of denying out food as well. It looks like we may have killed a couple of villagers up there. But now the mass keeps building. And our opponent says, you know what? It's time to bite the bullet. So we're going to slow it down. Because let's take a little bit of a look at the micro here. Probably a bit too slow right there. So we're focusing down the Zhukunu with our Yumi, and we're saving our spearmen to kill the horsemen. We don't want to send our spearmen in after the horsemen. We want to just try and keep them alive. And so as we're retreating here, we're looking to try and focus down the units, and we're going to keep those spearmen back in. And then as soon as the horsemen run away, we're going to bring these spears back because we don't want them to die to the Zhukunu here. And then we're just going to pick them off like that. And it's a very nice, simple opening. You play it the exact same way as you would as the English with their longbow spear. It's the exact same sort of concept here. So super duper easy to micro. And you always feel like you're in control when you go for something like this, as long as you're able to take out a couple of villages early. But that's essentially going to be it. Just to round out a couple of things for this civilization. So when it comes to resources, the 3 main resources for me for the Japanese are food, gold, and stone. Wood's actually not one of those resources because you don't get a bonus for wood. You get a bonus for food, right? You've got the Kura storehouse, which gives you massive amounts of food for free. You've got your daimyo manor, which gives you additional percentages that you're getting for free. Well, not for free, but you have to pay for it. And then you're getting 20% for free here, 20% for free here. You don't really get much with the wood. So the question was then, well, why are we going for the Yumi Ashigaru? What's the reason behind this unit in the first place if it costs wood, if we don't really have a bonus towards it? And I think where I'm coming from with it is that this unit is just a very strong unit, and it's particularly good in matchups where speed isn't at an advantage. So against English, I have a suspicion that at lower levels, the Japanese are going to absolutely destroy the English. And the reason why is this. When you're fighting against the English, their longbow mass begins to build. And the way that you deal with that is you make a whole lot of archers and you get on top of them and then you kill them. And you micro and you move up slowly, and then you finally kill them. With the Yumi Ashigaru, they move much faster. And because they move much faster, they can get on top of the enemy longbows a lot sooner. And as a result, take them out. On top of that, they're also cheaper, which means that when the English look to try and focus down your units, they're focusing down a unit that's got a lot less health. Say, compared to the Zhukunu as an example, 70 versus 60. So they're overkilling you more. And it's a cheaper unit as well, which means you're going to have more of them. So I think overall, this is just a really, really sound unit to go for. And even though we don't get that bonus, we still get the food bonus going towards it. But even in saying that, we don't get significant bonuses for resources towards this unit. And it's still really good. So at this point, when it comes to the rest of the game, it's really up to you. As I say, when I provide you, let me pull my spreadsheet over. So when I give you these sorts of spreadsheets, the idea is that this is an opening build order, but then from there, it's a framework. It's a framework for you to do what you want. You know, if you want to keep those villages on stone and upgrade your daimyo manor into a daimyo palace, go for it. Not a problem at all. For me, it's about just getting more units out on the field. Maybe you want to go castle age. Maybe you want to add a second TC. Maybe you don't want to go for a daimyo palace at all, and you just want to go for a second or a third TC. Go for it. It's up to you. This is the opening framework. It keeps it nice. It keeps it simple. You know, the 7 villages on food, the 3 on gold, the 3 to wood. It's very, very simple. So we're going to leave it there. And if you've got any questions, leave them down below. I'm not sure if you guys have seen, but I've been answering all the comments that are coming in. Because obviously it's the expansion. There's a lot of questions that everyone's got. So leave them down below. I'll get to them eventually. And yeah, we'll catch you guys in the next one.